Longlegs has been one of my most anticipated films of 2024. So how was it? In pursuit of a serial killer, an FBI agent uncovers a series of clues that she must solve to end his terrifying killing spree. Now, just to set your mind at ease, I'm going to be very vague with a lot of details so that I don't inadvertently give clues or hints. I only saw the first teaser trailer for this to keep it a huge mystery, and I want to give you the same opportunity. This takes place in the 90s and features Maika Monroe as an FBI agent who gets assigned to a resurgent serial killing case. She feels very much like she's on the autism spectrum due to her behaviors, mannerisms, and just the way she interacts. And this also, though, it works in her favor because she's incredibly detail-oriented and she sees patterns and items that others frequently don't pick up on. Now, Monroe, she is soft-spoken and mousy, and while she doesn't physically hunch over, she feels and acts like there's this continuous oppressive force just weighing her down. Now, Blair Underwood portrays her boss at the FBI, and he is impatient and he's direct, but also gives empathy and softness to Monroe's character. And they work well together because they're so tonally different. Now, while Underwood can be brash and loud, Monroe is typically soft-spoken and timid. And both of these work together to set the unsettling tone for the story and then create thrilling momentum. And that's really something that this film excels at. The tone and aura that it carries, it's threatening, but in an undefined way. I mean, sure, yeah, we have a serial killer case occurring, but there's really a lack of violence or gore that's shown for a lot of it. I mean, there is some, and just not as much as you might expect. So the violent visuals, those aren't the ones that are creating tension or the distressing emotion. Instead, it's the gray, cloudy skies, the sparseness of city life, and then the patient but driving discovery of clues that do all of that. I mean, there's an immense loneliness that exudes from the narrative. And some of that comes just from the lack of people that we see, and probably even more just the rural environments. But the characters feel as though they've been cast off by society. Or maybe it's just that they're not demonstrative in behaviors, again, creating a quiet and unsettled spirit. The movie's only an hour 41, and it uses the time expertly. There's this mounting urgency and stress, but it's spread out over the runtime, slowly increasing until the final act when everything begins to progress faster. Now, I was not bored or even distracted during the film. I was riveted and engrossed, watching every frame intently for clues. I mean, I was straining to see even when there wasn't anything to actually catch on screen. Now, I think you're going to see several similarities between this movie and David Fincher's Seven. And I don't say that as a negative. I mean, this isn't copying that, but it does certainly carry the spirit of that masterpiece in some small areas. And just like with Seven, Longlegs uses the ambiance to create dread and tension, not needing to have large action set pieces to maintain that stress. Now, because his name is on the movie poster, I'm going to mention that Nicolas Cage is also in this. Now, he's playing a mixture of some of his other characters, along with a brand new iteration. He's truly wonderful to watch here, and he's only over the top when it's needed. And the rest of the time, I mean, he's showing measured restraint that makes his performance all the more memorable. Now, the presentation, it is crafted well, instantly creating the foreboding sense of dread. Now, the film starts with this 1-to-1 screen ratio, providing a limited viewing area, which then adds mystique and a bit of fear. This technique, it's used whenever we enter a flashback or a past scenario, so that instantly informs us of a different time period without having to dress it with title cards or other on-screen visuals. And then, when events are taking place in the story's present, we get a full-screen presentation. This doesn't take away from the mystery or the apprehension, it just provides us with more area to watch the investigations play out. Now, I'm not sure if this was shot on film or digital, but there is a good amount of graininess to the final production, giving it this aged look, especially when compared to the bright and crisp digital movies of today. So whether it's put in during post-production or it's shot on film and the grain is natural, it helps to just transport us a couple of decades back just to watch this all take place. Now, something I had to sit with overnight to really get a handle on how I felt was in the final act. We get this exposition dump that lays out a ton of what has been transpiring. Now, when watching it, it felt strange because it was like the story was just putting it all on a plate and then just shoving it towards us, not really making us work through some of the elements to figure it out. But after marinating on it, I think the exposition and the explanation is actually a good thing. It works to remove speculation on certain story elements and then confirm others. And that actually benefits the narrative rather than detracting from it. I mean, some of the creep factor of the story comes from the full understanding of what's happened. It left me haunted because of what this information could mean for the characters. And even with answers provided, there are still many elements that are ripe for discussion after viewing. I mean, why did a character do or not do this one specific thing? What does this mean moving forward? Plus many other questions and items that can be dissected and examined. Now, for me, that's what elevates a film and story from simply being entertaining or fun to one that I crave watching repeatedly. This isn't a happy story and includes some really messed up moments, but the thoughtfulness of the depth and complexities of the plot and the character arcs, they're impactful and then unforgettable. And despite the dour tone, I don't think this is going to leave you wringing your hands while shoved in the bell jar. I mean, yeah, it is a bleak story, but like with any good thriller, the narrative provides a tiny glimmer of hope, whether that's to deceive us into thinking things might be okay, or there really is the possibility of relief. I mean, this dangles the carrot of optimism to ease our discomfort, but only slightly. Now, this is one of those movies that I think is going to get better and better with subsequent viewings. I am already impressed with how much it has invaded my thoughts, just thanks to the restrained pace, the enigmatic clues, impending dread, and then the outright captivating performances. So overall, Longlegs delivers dreadful thrills while showcasing spectacular acting from Monroe, Underwood, and Cage. The story elements are patiently doled out, crafting a trajectory of uneasy dread, culminating in an explosive and haunting conclusion. While the exposition dump in the final act can feel unnecessary or too spoon-fed, it provides needed clarity that enhances the lasting gut punch the story concludes with. Maika Monroe brilliantly embodies a character who is cagey and mysterious, while simultaneously becoming a sympathetic and powerful protagonist. If you enjoy thoughtful thrillers that use complexity as enhancements rather than gimmicks, Longlegs, it just might haunt you for days to come. There's no sex or nudity, some profanity, and then gruesome and brutal violence. I give Longlegs 4.5 out of 5 couches. So what are some of your favorite thrillers? I'd love to hear about them in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.